Hey guys, this is a video to help you, those of you that were absent with 3.2 day 2, which we're going to take a lot of the information that we learned in Tuesday's class and we're going to apply it to actually graphing these polynomial functions. So if you look on this first page, it gives you a lot of information here. So I just want to break it down real quick. We're going to do the coefficient test to find the end behavior. That's what we were doing on Tuesday with the rise, fall, all that stuff. The next step is going to be to find the x-intercepts, which is really just finding the zeros. So we're going to find the zeros for this. And we're going to make sure that we state the multiplicity and whether it crosses or bounces. That's going to be step 2, and this is all going to be laid out on the next page. Step 3 is to find the y-intercepts. We find those by plugging in 0 into the function. Step 4 is going to be to figure out the symmetry. We do that by deciding if it's even or odd, so we have to find f of negative x, and that's going to tell us if it's even, it's going to be the y-axis. If it's odd, it's going to be the origin, and if it's neither, you're not going to have any symmetry. And then the last step is to find the maximum number of turning points. That's going to help us to graph it by using this formula, n-1. So let's take a look on the next page. So this is what I would do to set up your problems tonight. This is each of the parts that you need to find. So just make sure you answer each of these questions for the problems that you're going to do tonight as well. So part A is going to ask you to find the end behavior. To find the end behavior, you're looking at this first term, x cubed, and you're deciding what you know about, we did this just on Tuesday, what you know about the exponent. The exponent is odd for this one. And what you know about the number is positive. So odd and positive, I'm thinking about a line with a positive slope. A line with a positive slope falls to the left, but rises to the right. Odd will always be opposite of each other. Then we have to find the x-intercepts, which is just finding the zeros, which means you have to set the equation equal to 0, and you have to solve. So if I want to solve this one, each one's going to have a different method. This one, in order to get it in factored form, I have to group it. So it's going to be x squared plus x plus 1 minus 4 times x plus 1. And then I get 0 is equal to x squared minus 4 times x plus 1, and set those each equal to 0. Here, we're going to add the 4 and take the square root. When you take the square root, make sure you do your plus or minus sign. That's plus or minus 2. This is negative 1, and those are our 3 answers. None of them come from a multiplicity, so they all have a multiplicity of 1. So it's negative 1, mult of 1, 2 mult of 1, and negative 2 mult of 1. And since all of those have a multiplicity of 1, that tells me that all of these are going to be crosses. So I'm going to cross at all those points. And we're going to keep finding all this information, and then we're going to get to the graphing part of it. So the x-intercept, the y-intercept, we are going to plug in, these are the new ones for today, you're going to plug in 0 for x. So that's how we're going to find the y-intercept. So I'm going to take that equation that's up there and I'm putting 0 in for the x's this time instead. And this should typically be pretty easy because all of these are going to cancel. So it's just negative 4 for your y-intercept. Your symmetry is next. To find the symmetry, I'm trying to write a note next to each of these. To find the symmetry, you're going to do f of negative x, meaning you're going to plug negative x into the original problem. So it's negative x cubed plus negative x squared minus 4 times negative x minus 4. I'm just using the example from part C and putting x in, negative x in instead of 0. You can scroll back up or rewind to see what the problem is again. I'm trying to do that without jumping around too much. So then we see what happens here. This one's going to become negative. This one's going to stay the same because it's even. This one's going to change. It's going to be plus 4x. This is going to be minus 4. So some of them change and some of them stay the same, which means this is a neither. And neither tells me there's no symmetry. And then the last step is to figure out the number of turns. That's just a formula. It's n minus 1. So n is the highest exponent. Our highest exponent for this one was the 3. So we're just going to do 3 minus 1. So we have a max number of turns of 2. That's what that tells us. So if you look carefully, I tried to lay out here the important stuff. So now our next step is to graph it. So I want to go ahead and write out your steps for graphing. So here's my suggestion for the order of how you're going to graph everything. The first thing you're worried about graphing is any of your intercepts. So you're going to graph the x-intercepts on the x-axis, the y-intercepts on the y-axis. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to sketch the curve. And you just have to be aware of everything else we kind of listed here. Your end behavior is going to tell you where to start. Are you going to start by being up, pointing up? Are you going to start by pointing down? That's what the rise and fall is going to tell you. The bounce and cross part of the x-axis is going to tell you when you get to each x-intercept what you're going to do at that point. You're going to make sure you go through the y-intercept. If there's symmetry, you're going to try and make the parts match, whether that's over the y-axis matching or over the origin matching. And then lastly, you have to make sure you stay under the max number of turns. You can't turn too many times. You can only turn how many under the number that it tells you. So if we go ahead and take the intercepts first for this problem, we had x-intercepts at -1, +2, and -2. And then we would have had a y-intercept at -4. So we're going to put all those down. And then we're going to really pay close attention to what the end behavior says. The end behavior says I'm going to fall first and then rise next. So if I'm falling first, I'm going to start in the negative area. So I'm going to start in the negative area. I'm going to get up all the x-intercepts are crossing. So I'm going to get up to this x-intercept, cross it, but then I have to come back and I have to cross through this. I got to go through the y-axis, cross through that other point. And if you notice, everything else kind of falls in line. The falling to the left and curving through the points like I was supposed to ends up rising to the right. And then the other things that we said would happen is there could be at maximum 2 turns. There's only 2 turns, and there's no symmetry.